A local effort that's already helped more than 200 people off the streets for good is still setting its sights on something even bigger: ending chronic homelessness in Grand Rapids. And we're talking about what's working, what they've learned along the way, and what it'll take to finish the job. It's called the Downtown Pathways Project. And joining us now, we got two of the community leaders behind it. Thelma Ensink, Executive Director at Dégagé Ministries, right there on the end. Megan Erskine, CEO of Catherine's Health Center, joining us today. Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having us.
I don't know if we have enough time to cover everything that's happening with Downtown Pathways, because this is a big, big project. Let's talk about what it is. First off, Downtown Pathways is kind of a natural evolution of the 100 and 100, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. So some community leaders, a cross-sector of organizations, healthcare, city, county, homelessness response providers, a continuum of care, got together some time ago and said, how do we make homelessness rare, brief, and one time only in Kent County? And what we recognize is there's a lot of barriers to making that happen. And so we've gotten together through both projects to really try to solve those issues together.
Okay, so how did you all get together? How did this originate? Was it just over a conversation over coffee? What happened?
So it started with just a few of us visiting some other cities: Houston, San Antonio, Phoenix, Denver, trying to learn from other communities. What are they doing when it comes to homelessness? And then bringing that conversation home and really sitting around tables at the chamber, at some of our locations, and just really continuing that conversation and that problem solving.
And now we're talking chronic homelessness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means they get help, they are back on the streets, it just kind of cycles, right? We want to break that. But I saw some stats that we have a pretty high success rate of actually keeping people off the street. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think I would love to hear from Thelma. Well, the 100 and 100 I was less involved in, but the numbers there are very compelling. And I'll just say before Thelma gives you the real numbers, it's a small group of people, but with very complex needs. And that's why it feels solvable. But it can't be solvable unless you're bringing in multi-sector or cross-sector organizations. So like, I represent healthcare, and oftentimes when we talk about housing, we're like, it's housing. But if someone gets housing and they're not connected to mental health or healthcare services or other case management, they're not going to be successfully housed. And we can't keep people well if they don't have stable housing. But I think Thelma has more on the numbers.
Well, to follow up on your point, though, I mean, that is something that the recycling, the cycle happens with mental health.
Yes.
Those things your health is a huge factor in this.
Yes, and I think the value of the Downtown Pathways Project, as was 100 and 100, Grand Rapids in West Michigan has a lot of nonprofits and a lot of resources that are very high functioning. And I think what we found from 100 and 100 and Downtown Pathways is we're all going to reach the ceiling if we're independently doing great things. But when we start collaborating cross-sector, where you're talking to incarceration experts, you're talking to healthcare experts, you're talking to mental health experts, you're talking to shelters, you're talking to housing, you're talking to government, you're talking to the chamber, everyone can bring a little piece of the puzzle to solve a very complex issue. And I think this is really a blueprint for West Michigan to tackle any social problem. And I really don't think any of us can do it alone. And that's really, to me, like what the special thing about Downtown Pathways is.
Well said. You know, they say it takes a village, right? And a lot of people think that means individuals. Well, that can mean organizations too, a village of organizations. You're just two of the organizations. How many are in this thing? I heard dozens.
It's growing every day, but we have about 15 partners or so that sit together regularly. Yeah, in Kent County, we have a point-in-time count of about 1,238 individuals experiencing homelessness. But of that group, only about 190 or so are what we call chronically homeless. And then it is that group that we've really been working with intensely in 100 and 100. And now, one of the main programs that was born out of that was housing stabilization case management. So this is where the case manager will actually help the client get through that application process. It's so complicated to apply for housing. And then once they're housed, actually go in the home and help them adjust. If you've been on the streets for years, it's very difficult to readjust to being in a home. How do I clean the home? How do I care for it? How do I make sure all my friends that are on the street don't all want to come and live with me in the apartment? Where do I go for groceries? How do I get connected to healthcare? And so our housing stabilization case managers visit them in their home, help them stabilize, The national average for somebody experiencing chronic homelessness to return to have recidivism back to the system is about 17%, and our program has reduced that down to 7%. And so that's great success, and we just want to build on that because we're not satisfied with 7%.
Well, that's got to be exciting. I mean, to be that far underneath, let's say, a national average for recidivism. Excuse me, that's a fun word to say. But that's an amazing thing. And so we're talking more people should maybe get involved, more organizations. Because you mentioned the 100 and 100, we learned there's more than 100. Right?
Yep.
You mentioned 190?
Yes.
Something like that, so almost double of what was maybe thought to be out there. And these folks need this help, and we can do that. We can end chronic homelessness. Look at that big sign right there. And there's going to be a celebration of impact, right? This is happening on the 18th.
Yep.
Talk a little bit more about this event.
Yeah, so we are celebrating at the Chamber with all of our partners.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be a big event, and more importantly, we really want people to go to the website and sign up for the newsletter. One of our goals in this project is to share lessons learned and to be radically transparent and talk about all of the wins, but also like what's not working well as we like work through all of this. And so please visit the Downtown Pathways Project website. I don't know what that URL is, but if you Google it, I bet you could find
it. Up there. That's
and
refreshing, though, the transparency that you're
Yes.
talking about. That's very refreshing, because a lot of time you're in a newsletter and it just feels like you're getting happy emails of how great everything is.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
You guys are going to let people in on what's really happening on the day-to-day workings of how this is going.
Yep.
Yeah, homelessness is not just a healthcare or homelessness response provider issue, right? It's a community issue. Our business owners tell us all the time, it doesn't feel good when somebody's sleeping in their doorway. It doesn't feel good when they see people panhandling on the street, right? And our clients tell us they don't want to be homeless, right? And so how do we create win-win scenarios when business and providers work together?
Well, I'm proud to be living in this city with this kind of this real movement is what's happening, and you can be a part of it too. Sign up for that newsletter, and we'll get you all the information that you need at fox17morningmix.com. We'll have all the links up there so you can sign up for that newsletter and learn more about how we can end chronic homelessness right here in West Michigan. We'll be right back.